podcast. I'm Dave, and this is Danielle.
Hi. They already know us.
Danielle's wearing her nicest outfit today.
My comfy?
Yeah, speaking to the microphone.
My comfy.
All right. So we wanted to try it out since we speak to each other constantly, and we don't let anybody else listen to it. So we wanted the whole world to know what we talk about constantly at home by ourselves.
Double D's.
So the way that this came about is all of our friends are probably busy or doing something, and we're bored at home. Avery's in the other room.
We have no lives.
We don't have any lives. And I asked Danielle if she wanted to do a podcast with me because I was bored and I really enjoy doing this. So I asked her to come up with a topic, and I'm going to throw it to her to tell us all what we're going to be talking about today.
All right. So we're going to talk about, like, I keep getting questions about competing, bodybuilding, all that good stuff. So I've got a couple questions people have been asking me because I'm on this new like kick now, working out, I'm eating well for the, not just for the new year, but they're like, oh, are you competing again? So that's how I came up with the topic. We wanted to talk about bodybuilding, competing, like the struggles, what we went through, what was good about it, what was bad about it, because we both competed a couple years ago. Was it 2000?
Probably more like 5-6 years ago now. The last time we competed.
Holy crap! Yeah.
So if you guys also don't know, which we don't promote much, but I am, and Danielle is we're gym owners. We're personal trainers by trade, but we own a personal training studio, which used to be a gym, which is now really just personal training. It's Viking Performance and Fitness. We own it with two other schmucks. Great guys, Joe and Chris. I'm not going to say his last name. He's very famous, so I don't want to blow up his spot. And before that, one of the things that I don't know if we ever told the story before, but how we met, which is a good way to segue into this, was I was a personal trainer since, God, it's almost 20 years now, if not 20 years already. And about 12 years ago, maybe, I met Danielle because I was her trainer. We were friends for a very long period of time. Shit happened, and then we became more than friends. I'll leave that at that. But I always thought she had a lot of potential. Did you feel like you had a lot of potential athletically?
Softball. I played softball throughout high school. I didn't play in college, but I played, road ball. I played arc ball. So I was trying to get better at softball. So that's really why I went to you. And then it streamed into other things.
Other venues.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I first met her, she was very athletic and not muscular per se, but she had the potential for muscle, which is probably the most important part about being a bodybuilder or a fitness competitor or a figure athlete, or whatever the fuck they're calling them nowadays. There's about 40 different divisions that I can't even keep track of. It's a money grab at this point.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's crazy. But one of the bigger part of our lives and one of the best part of our lives was when we first met. We both started to compete. Me first, then Danielle. I kind of jumped into it for a very specific reason. And without mentioning names or bringing up the past, I did it to prove something to myself more than anything, because, I've always been a bigger guy. Everybody always calls me chubby or fat, even though I'm just ripped out of my mind. Very muscular, very lean. No, but for real, I always wanted to let everybody know that I had the potential to do that, and everybody always told me I had the potential to do that. So when I decided to compete, it was a big step. I had to stop drinking, to eat exactly what I was supposed to eat every meal, and that was a big struggle. Did a couple shows. I'm going to go back and, we're going to go over the finer points of that, but I just want to give everybody the background. Did a couple shows, placed second in each show. They used to call me the Buffalo Bills of bodybuilding because I never won. I always came in second. And, then I started to coach other people, mostly girls, in bodybuilding, figure, that kind of stuff. It was very short-lived, about a year, maybe year and a half of my life. Probably two years. And one of the best athletes that I ever trained was Danielle. She won one show. Oh,
Yeah.
one show. One show. And competed in two. Did very well in both. Looked best on stage in both, but only won one. So I want to throw it to Danielle. I want her to tell you and me, even though I already know, about why she started to compete in bodybuilding.
Well, I came to you for the whole softball thing, and then I just wanted to get kind of steer away from the softball because I was kind of like, all right, I want to do something different. So then I started doing the event. I signed up for the adventure races, like the Warrior Dash, all that stuff, and I trained for that. And then I'm like, I want to do something bigger. Like I kept telling him, I'm like, I want to do something bigger. Like I'm seeing changes. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting faster. So I did a Tough Mudder. And then from the Tough Mudder, I think that's when I was like, you actually mentioned, because I'm like, I want to do something even bigger than that. And he's like, why don't you try bodybuilding? I'm like, all right, I'll try it. And I have to admit, it was a struggle, but the first year was a struggle, but the second time I did it was actually better because I knew the process, but I'm trying to think yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to think what
you need to say about
what
it?
I need to say about it.
I think that was a good intro to what happened with you. I think one of the biggest aspects of me pushing you to do bodybuilding was your lack of confidence in yourself.
Oh well, that's what I wanted to get to. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
it
was
you can touch
very. When you met me, I was not confident. I was like no self-esteem, nothing. I was just like, ugh, right? So I started working out and I started to realize I'm like, oh, like, I'm getting more confident. I think when I started doing the bodybuilding, that's when it kind of like got really good. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I look great. And now I still have that confidence, which I'm not like I look back on myself years ago and I'm like, wow, like I would have stepped on stage if you met me, like if I never met you. And years before that, like I look at old pictures and I'm like, that girl would never have done that ever.
Yeah, I agree.
It's crazy.
I agree. And it wasn't me coaxing you into doing it. It really was a very easy conversation. I didn't have to.
You helped.
Yeah, I just kind of guided you there.
Yeah.
And since I had a little bit of a background and I'm a student of fitness, because that's really the only thing that ever interested me up until that point.
Yeah.
When I learned from Justin Miller how to do, sculpt a diet. I also learned from other people online and things like that. But I also wanted to pass that knowledge on because I feel like that was, at that point, that was probably my only outlet for feeling good about myself. I was going through some rough times, and me helping other people kind of pushed me to push you, and I was living vicariously through you. So let's back up a little bit, since everybody kind of knows, that backstory now. I would say my first 2 weeks of competing, or my first 2 weeks of training to be a competitor, were absolutely ridiculous. They were so stupidly done, and that's what pushed me to go talk to this guy Justin, who owned the Gym Power Fitness at the time, and now he trains out of Beth Francis, and he trained some of the top bodybuilders in the world, George Peterson. He's trained Juliana Malacarne, Rita, Deshanti. It's always the last name always screws me up with the Brazilian girls, but a Pinedo, Rita Deshanti Pinedo, it was something like that, and a few other really top good bodybuilders now, and he was a top bodybuilder back then as well. So not to bore you too much, but the first 2 weeks, he said, can you just write down what you eat? And I remember writing down what I eat, and it was like sausage and peppers, and egg
this
sandwich.
Is before you started like the
2 meatballs. No, it was when I said. He said he pushed me to do it. He goes, I want you to try, start training to compete. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And he just thought I was, like everybody else, he thought I was screwing around, but I was looking for a goal. So I said, January 1st, I stopped drinking. I started what I thought was good eating, which was like, just eating less. And I lost, like 10 pounds that first 2 weeks. And I showed him what I was eating. He goes, you're eating like this? Because this is not how a bodybuilder eats. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about bodybuilding. I'm just a trainer. And I'm just eating less and eating, a little healthier than I normally do. And that's usually how I would lose weight. I was like 280 pounds at the time, which was the biggest I ever was. Now I'm, obviously a little bit bigger than that. But I, at that point, got a diet from him, and then I ran with it. I mean, I ate so clean for that first 6 months of training for that show, which I went from like 280 something at that point down to like 211 in 6 months.
I didn't even recognize you. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
If you look at pictures of you, you're like, I'm like, you need to eat something. I'm not used to you being this tiny.
Yeah. And I didn't go out of the house. I didn't see my friends.
Yeah.
No one saw me for 6 months, which isn't that weird for me to do? Like, I'll go through spurts where I don't see my like good friends for like 3 months at a time, or I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. But I just shut down. I like this time of year, usually January 1st, I shut it down and I try to get a little healthier. I used to do that. Now it's like, forget about it.
I feel like, because I prepped in the summer, I feel like the summer was harder because the barbecues and all the, I feel like it was harder in the summer. I don't know.
Traditionally, it is. I mean, that's why I picked the show I picked, the Long Island. And I think that's why the Long Island is when it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's right before the summer. Everybody would get in shape for the summer on Long Island, whatever. So, not to push too far ahead in that 6 months, because I want to go through it, not step by step, but a little bit at a time. But each week I would see a little bit of progress. And when I say a little bit of progress, I mean like 5 pounds of progress, like losing 5 pounds each week. And for me, that was like throwing a deck chair off the Titanic. I didn't really realize it at first. Thought it was just a little bit. But then after 2-3 months of losing 5 pounds a week, you get to a point where you're 60 pounds down and you're like, holy crap, I cannot believe I did this. And I'm only 15 pounds away from stepping on stage. And I look better than I did in my whole life. And
you're eating like 6-7 meals a day too. People are like, how do you eat that much?
That's never been a problem for me, but for you it was.
Like I remember when you're like, okay, you have to start eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. I think it was 3 hours, every 3 hours. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't eat that much. Because I would literally wouldn't eat breakfast, and then I wouldn't eat till like maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had to force it down. I was crying. Remember, I was like, I can't eat this. And then after like 2 or 3 weeks, your metabolism starts to pick up. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm hungry. Like I didn't even need to be told to eat. Like I was like, okay, I'm hungry.
Yeah. So just a little background on what a bodybuilder should eat, or what we were eating at that time was a couple eggs in the morning, 2-3 eggs in the morning.
A gallon of water.
Maybe a little oatmeal, depending on the time of the prep. Then the second meal would be some grilled chicken, some salad, maybe a little sweet potato, half a sweet potato, whole sweet potato, depending on where you're on prep. Then, another meal like some tuna fish or a fish meal. Then, workout, steak meal or a beef meal. And then depending on who your coach was, maybe those later meals would be a little bit of like casein protein, like some cottage cheese or whatever it was. For the most part, I really thrive on that. A lot of people nowadays are someone walking up to the line.
There was like a shadow over there. Oh, it was.
Oh, it's upstairs tenant.
I'm like, who is that?
The only person that would be.
Weird.
So anyway, someone was walking up our driveway. So for the most part, that I thrive like that. Most people nowadays are eating almost like Danielle used to eat, where they wouldn't eat all day. They like to starve themselves.
What's that? Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, fasting. It's bullshit. I don't like it. I never did well on it. I always get really low blood sugar early in the morning, and I can't push through, and then I have to gorge myself to get it back.
Like everybody's different. Like I feel like when they put me on, what is it, the keto or something.
Keto diet, yeah.
I mean, it worked for a couple of days, and then like I wasn't losing anything.
Did I tell you my parents were on it?
Really?
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. Okay. So you were losing it? Yeah.
No, I remember. I don't know if Rita put me on it, and I'm like, I'm not losing anything. And then they started putting carbs back in me, and then I started losing weight. Like my body doesn't respond to low carb.
All fairness to to anybody
But
that
it's-
helped you out in the past.
yeah.
It's a trial and error. So even
No,
if
I-
most people go with one thing that works for them to start, and
Mhm.
then after that, you just got to tweak.
Well, I think she was doing it because I was
It was a chunky
I was
butt.
this was the first show.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm just doing this for fun, whatever. And, I cheated a little bit. And I think
Oh,
that's
yeah, that was
why,
great.
remember?
Yeah.
And, I got to tell him that story in the second
Yeah.
one, but whatever. So it's like, oh, we're going to put you on this. And I was not like, I started cheating because I was so hungry and it wasn't doing anything. And then I had to eat carbs again, even though I was eating like bad carbs.
Just wanted to apologize to Diana, by the way, for my gray sweatpants.
Yes,
I know.
happy birthday, Demons.
Yeah, happy birthday. This will come out on your birthday.
My clam power hour,
Yeah.
buddy.
So you're on this very strict diet for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And you have these urges to
Ugh.
cheat. I don't know how I did it because I have no willpower whatsoever normally. I didn't cheat for 6 months unless I was
No, you did
prescribed to.
good.
I always had, for the first 4 months, I had a cheat meal every week. Then I went to about every 2 weeks, which was tough, but I did it, and I don't know how I did it. Probably a good coach, good situation. I was fucking poor, so I couldn't go out to eat at that point. So it was definitely more challenging for, I think, Danielle.
Oh my
So
God.
so one of her breakdowns, I'll let her tell you the story.
This was the second one, right? The second show.
I don't remember if it was the first or second.
All right,
They
so
all blend in.
the first show, usually it's about what, 16 weeks?
For you, it was 16 weeks. For
I
me,
don't
it
know, for
was
you.
more like 20, 24.
Okay, so the second show, I think we decided to do 18 weeks. I think I started earlier. I don't know if I think that was my decision. I don't remember what happened, but whatever. So when I hit this, like I was doing so good. I hit the 16th week and I was like losing my mind. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I think I got home from work early and I literally, I tell this to everybody. I know how you have like the angel and devil on your shoulder telling you to do it. Don't do it. Do it. So I'm walking over to the cabinet. I open it. I look in. I close it. I'm like, no. Open it. Close it. I must have did it like 5 times. And then I'm like, screw this. And I don't even know what I ate. I think I had 2 bowls of Lucky Charms. I had graham crackers. I don't even know what I had. And I was crying. I was in bed. He comes home from work. And I'm like, I texted him. I was like, I can't. I'm done. I'm quitting. And he comes in and I'm literally curled up in the bed crying. And he's like, what's the matter? And I said, I cheated. And I was crying. And then I remember what you said. You said, okay, you cheated. You did it, whatever. And then you said, just start, like, forget about it and just continue what you're doing. And then I'm like, okay. And then I was fine for the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
But you told me, you're like, I'm glad that you told me. Thank you for telling me. Because in the first show, I was like, no, I didn't cheat. And Justin and Rita are like, we know we can tell by, the water and all that. So, but I told you, he's like, I'm glad you told me. And then I was fine.
It's a pretty common thing I don't really follow bodybuilding anymore. And it was really,
No.
I mean, I've always had an eye on it my whole life, from Dorian Yates on up in the 90s. But I never really followed it. But from what I understand of the stories I heard when I was really engrossed in it for about 4 or 5 years between my shows and Danielle's, was the frequency at which people cheat is just ridiculous. They're such good genetically gifted people that they don't respond to those cheats the way that normal people would. So they can get away with it a little more, but they're still very disciplined and they're impossibly strict with most of the stuff they do. So they can kind of get away with those here and there.
Yeah.
I'd say, I mean, and the reason why we both did it and the motivating factors and why we wanted to talk about it are pretty evident from what we said. And we've only kind of touched on the negative portion of it.
Oh yeah.
So I want
Sorry.
the positive.
That's why we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
It was.
It was not for us per se. It was for maybe us in a younger portion of our lives. but now other responsibilities taken over and enjoying life in a different way has taken over, even though that is enjoyable for some people. It's just not for us. But some of the good things that came out of that was clients, pictures that we'll never forget and never get rid of. So, I can always throw up a picture of me bodybuilding and people are like, oh, you look great. And I'm like, oh, that was 15 years ago or 10 years ago, however long it's going to be when I put the next one up. But so those things are positive. None of the clothes fit me anymore. So that's negative again. No, but what positive things do you think came out of it?
I think, well, the confidence, definitely. I've gained a lot of confidence, clients.
Sweat my ass
I
off.
just love when people are like, oh my God, you look so good. And I love looking at the pictures, and people still look at the pictures and they're like, oh my God, like I want to look like that. I'm like, listen, it's totally different. Like, it's
a different world.
Yeah, it's a different world of like, you shouldn't look like that 24/7, but it was nice to I was so excited, like the day of the show, walking on stage and all the people like cheering, and it's so like,
do you think
just for that 5 minutes on stage?
Do you think, this is a big question, maybe we could discuss this for the second half? No, it's not like it's an opinion. Do you think that it's bodybuilding or that kind of training and that kind of lifestyle has fallen out of favor with the CrossFit and the Instagrams and all that stuff? That people aren't doing that so much anymore. They're doing a different type of fitness. They're concentrating on a more regular looking body as opposed to
like an athletic body, not really like a.
Like in the 90s, everybody wanted to be 300 pounds, and Jack, Dave Palumbo, Dorian Yates, those guys. Now it's like everybody wants to look like
athletic fit, like, because I had a client like that. She was she used to be really, really skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I want to look like that again. And she has like an athletic build now. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I hate to be an ass, but why do you want to look like that? Like, you look great. Like, you're muscle. Like, she's not like a beast, but she has muscle. And like, she's like, I want to be a rail again. Like, remember how you used to be like, there used to be the thing, like, I want to be skinny.
Yeah.
Now it's, I want to have muscle.
Yeah, I think I think you're right.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know. I kind of got off topic. Sorry.
No, you didn't get off topic. It leads right into why we're talking about this, I guess.
Yeah.
Why you were interested in letting people know that it's a lifestyle choice. It's something that you can do to varying different degrees. People always ask us what we podcast about, and most of the time it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, we don't talk about a lot of important things. This isn't that important either. To be honest,
only for people that want to compete, I guess, in the future. And
yeah.
I mean, I had one of the girls I played softball with, I was telling you before, she messaged me and I told her, I was like, oh my God, this is so weird that you're asking me about this, because we're going to do a podcast tonight. But she was asking about the posing.
Mm-hmm.
So in bodybuilding, figure, whatever, you have to do certain poses. So she asked like if I had a coach or what I did. And so, I mean, Rita was my coach, but she was a physique competitor, wasn't a figure competitor. So I kind of learned it through the internet kind of, but she wanted to know like what like posing coaches that I used, and
did
I have a coach, so that's why like I was like, this is so crazy because we were going to do a podcast about this. So she's very excited for this information.
I'd like to talk to Rita and Justin again. It sounds like
Rita stops competing, I think.
Yeah, because it's all political.
Yeah,
it's a shitty sport when you get to a very high level sometimes, and it's not really even a sport. It's a beauty contest at a high level and a popularity contest. So it's tough to. I mean, I'm not speaking for her. I'm just speaking for the people that I've heard say that.
Yeah.
So.
Because she looks amazing. She always has. Even when she competed in physique, and now she competed in figure, I think, the second time. Yeah,
which goes to show you it's really all the same thing with a different name on it.
Yeah.
And maybe a few different poses. So I think we touched on everything we needed to touch on motivation for why we did what we did, who we are, why we became those people.
Yeah.
Did
And
you-
listen, if you want to try it, do it. It was definitely worth it. The first time was more for fun. The second time I was more like, okay, now I know what's going on. Oh, also, sorry. If you're gonna plan on doing a show, go see one first. Cause you did one.
Mhm.
So I went to go see him and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look that bad. This looks, I have to walk on stage in heels, but whatever. And that's the first rule, like go see one so you could see what it's all about. And yeah,
you definitely want to check it out in person, because I mean, now it's obviously impossible to do that, but
well,
you definitely want to see something like that in person, and that goes for anything.
Mhm.
You're not going to step on a football field for the first time if you've never seen a football game, or you will and you won't perform well. So you definitely want to see it from the fans' perspective, and then once you get there, it's completely different from backstage and on stage. I couldn't even. I mean, I have flashes of memories from being on stage, but I couldn't tell you one show to another, or even 5 minutes after I got off, I couldn't tell you what was going through my brain. It was just, don't breathe out.
it's just like, oh my God, I gotta
Flex hard.
Don't fall. Because
for you, yeah.
for me, I was in heels and I never wear heels.
Yeah. And I thought I was in dead last place the whole time, even coming in second. So you never know what's going on. But that was a little quick hit of a podcast for the first Double D podcast. I wanted to thank Danielle for joining us. She's going to leave tonight, sleep outside.
No,
I make her sleep outside every night. No, just kidding. Thank you for joining us,
Yes.
and see you soon.
Peace out.